profit. And we need our government to protect us from their depredations. And we are here to ask, how much is enough? Don't corporations have any social and ecological responsibilities? Corporations are supported because they are said to be the economic engine of society. But when profit is their goal, they will fight to reduce their share of taxes, demand subsidies, oppose regulations, and fire hundreds of employees if it will increase profitability. Corporations are not people. They are economic creations that are not designed to consider people, communities, or ecosystems. And that's why we elect governments. People are put in jail today for selling marijuana. But who went to jail after BP spilled oil into the Gulf for months? Politicians have rushed us into the global economy. I remember when Brian Mulroney was Prime Minister and rushed us into free trade agreement with the United States, even though 60% of Canadians voted against it. He was interviewed by Larry King on CNN, and when Larry chided him for Canada's economic downturn, Mulroney's reply was, "That was the global economy. Don't blame me for what happens in the global economy." If we lose control over our economy because of the global economy, why do our politicians give up their responsibility and rush to embrace that globalization? Globalization does not spread the highest standards for workers, corporate communities, or ecosystems. Instead, corporations go to the lowest standards of medical care, of wages, of environmental standards, because it's all about maximizing profit. The global economy means our garbage and toxic effluents are shared with the world, dumped into the air, water, and land. When you purchase fancy running shoes, a cell phone, or automobile, do you know whether slave or child labor was involved in any part of its production? The ecological impacts of toxic materials generated in the process of manufacturing, these costs are hidden. Yet each time we make a purchase, we become part of that system that exploits people and ecosystems around the world. We claim we live in a democracy, but how many of us will vote next month in the coming election? Maybe we'll set a record with 25%. How about the provincial election? Ontario just had a record 49% turnout. And what about the federal election? When 40% of us don't vote, we don't have democracy. I have voted faithfully in elections ever since I turned 21 in 1957, and I have never voted for a party that formed the government. In other words, my vote carried no weight, because we are one of the last democracies in the world that doesn't have a democracy based on proportional representation. If we don't vote, we don't have democracy. If we don't have proportional representation, we have minority rule. Corporations are not people, and corporations should not be allowed to finance political campaigns for politicians. Why do we have such a disproportionate representation of politicians who are business people or lawyers? I believe because they can afford to run for office and lose, and they have friends with money. But that skews government priorities to issues jurisdictional and economic. We need a broader perspective than just legal and economic issues. Political campaigns should not be financed disproportionately by the wealthy. Any qualified candidate should be able to campaign, and the only money for campaigning should be from us, the taxpayers. If money talks, let it be from the let it be from the general public, so their best interests dominate government priorities, not corporations. A society that supports vast disproportions in the distribution of wealth is not a sustainable society. A society should measure its success by the care of its weakest, poorest, and most vulnerable, not by the number of super rich. Let's take back the agenda. We need democracy for people, not corporations. We want greater equity. We demand social justice, especially for the first peoples of this nation, and we want to recognize and protect our most fundamental needs: clean air, clean water, clean soil, clean energy, a diversity of other species, and communities that support our children with love and care. Thank you all for letting me share this.